This video is about the problems of man, and I don't really know what I'm going to say. It's not as prepared as other ones, but I guess this concept came to me when I was working over the weekend, and this coworker kept dealing with these problems all day long, and watching her go about them was kind of eye-opening to me about how you deal with your problems. And she was having all these issues, and everyone else in the room was probably experiencing the same issues she was having in different ways. I mean, we're all doing the same job she's doing, but we weren't acting the way she was acting. And I think it's because we're going about solving our problems in a different way. And the way she was going about solving these problems or trying to solve these problems was just causing more difficulty and more problems for her. And I was thinking about problems, and that's just the nature of life, is problems. And I was trying to categorize all the problems of man into 4 simple categories. And what I got was relationships, direction and purpose, balance, and resources. And all 4 of these categories, I think, can categorize all of your problems, all of man's problems. And every other problem is just a variation that can be categorized into one of these 4 categories. There may be more categories, but let me just kind of explain these 4 categories to see if everything can be grouped into these. If everything can be grouped into one of these categories. So, first of all, let me define what problems are. I think everyone has problems, and it's an obstacle, it's conflict, it's opposition, it's something to solve, or it's a burden. It's this issue, it's this, I guess the most objective way to think about a problem is a math problem. There's a certain equation or a certain problem. That's the input equals output solution, and there is a solution to the problem in math. And there's easy problems and there's harder problems, and the higher up the level you go, the harder the problems get and the harder they are to solve, but there are solutions to them. So the first category, relationships, is any relational problem you have in your life. How it relates to another person or how it relates to yourself. That's the relationship problems. And I think that's the core of the majority of human problems, is through relationships and relations to yourself or to other things. A problem with yourself or a problem with another person. That's the core problems that humans deal with, is relationships and conflict. The second one, direction and purpose, is, I think, related just to the self, but also can be groups of people, and that's which path to take, which direction to take. Say you're on a road and you don't know which direction to go in, or there's a map and you don't know which direction to take. You don't have a compass or a way to lead you to the right direction or purpose. I put career choice, meaning, fulfillment, goals. It has to do with fulfillment, it has to do with purpose and meaning, and where you're supposed to be headed. So being lost is a problem, and it can be categorized into all different types of meanings behind. You can be physically lost or mentally lost, or you just don't know which direction to take next. The third category is balance, which is balancing things in your life. And problems arise when things aren't balanced. Your time, your priorities, and things are just unbalanced, causes problems. And I did a video about labor, leisure, play, and rest, and how you need to balance these 4 categories of life. And if any one of them gets unbalanced, then they're all going to be unbalanced. They all have to be in sync together, and you have to balance your labor, your leisure, your rest, and your play, and they all have to be kind of equal balanced, equilibrium between all 4, and equally split in how you put your priorities. So, relationships to people or yourself, relations, fulfillment, which is direction and purpose, balance, how you balance things in your life. And the 4th one, I put resources, which is what you have or what you lack. So a resource of wealth, energy, or health. Anything that you lack or don't have enough of, it can kind of dilute into all these other things that you lack. I mean, you could start with the wealth and the money, which could go into, you don't have food, you don't have shelter, you don't have something to provide. You could do a lack of health, which is sick, disease, something that you're not your full capacity. So you lack health, wealth, or energy. You need to gain health, wealth, or energy. And these 4 things, I think, is a pretty good categorization. So you have these problems in your life. They constantly keep coming. And you need to learn how to solve them in the right way and what's the best way to solve them, and also your attitude when you're in the problem, because the problems will never stop coming. They're just regenerative. I mean, this world and this life is full of problem generators and there's problem solvers. The personality type of you want to problem solve, and humans are problem solvers. And you're constantly being given a problem. There's a problem that's generated and you're trying to solve that problem, and you solve it and you get another one, and they just keep replenishing over and over and over, and they get bigger, and sometimes they're small and sometimes they're big, but they never stop coming. And you have to learn in your life how to manage these problems, but you need to balance your priorities and the fact that these problems will never stop coming, but you need to have a certain attitude when you're in the problem. So when my coworker was getting frustrated or going about this problem in a certain way, and I mean, I'm doing my job and I have the same problem she's having, and we're all doing the same job, just the same issues that come up, but I solved mine in a way that, like, yeah, it's an issue, but I could figure it out, or there's a solution on the other side. So I did a video about perspective, and I think perspective is very important on your problems in your life. You need to understand that whatever your next problem is, or your current problem, it has a solution, and you can either view your problem as, okay, there's a solution on the other side, and you're just kind of looking for the solution, or there's people that have a problem and they start freaking out like the world's ending, and we're never going to find this solution. And I watched this in jobs about there's multiple different types of how ways people deal with problems, but I've seen people that immediately start freaking out, and they're not relaxed, they're not calm, it's immediate chaos, they're like panicking, and they're in fear, anxiety, and they're stressed out of their mind that this problem, or that they're faced with, and it just makes the problem enhanced and worse when you go about it with the attitude, with fear, anxiety, stress. There's this uncertainty that is going to be constant in your life, of just uncertain things on the other side. And then I've seen people go out in a way that they're like, I don't know this answer, it's a problem, but let me just kind of wait to figure this out, or there's got to be some solution that I'm just, I'll figure it out, or it will be solved. I mean, you just kind of like looking around the corner about, like, there's a solution on the other side, you're just kind of trying to find it So for example, like a really clear example would be, you're at this job, or say something was lost that, like, we need this right now, and this person starts freaking out about, where is this thing? We lost it, we can't find it, what are we gonna do? Like, we need this right now, it can't be lost. And they start freaking out, and it makes it worse. Versus someone that's like, does anyone know where this is at? Yeah, we gotta find this because it's pretty important. And you just kind of start looking around, you start asking about it. Yeah, we're looking for that. And then they're just kind of like, it's around here somewhere, it's over on the other side, like, we'll find it, we need to find that. But their attitude is so important about how they're going about the situation. Like, are they going about it smooth and calm and, like, kind of nonchalant? Because when they go about it smooth and calm and kind of nonchalant, some people see that as, like, horrible. Like, why aren't you freaking out? Because you should be worried about, like, this is so important. But they realize it's important. They're just relaxed, because it's not going to help to freak out about it. It's not going to help to panic about it. It's helpful to be calm about it, and then we'll find the solution, versus when you start to do things a lot quicker. Or have you ever worked in the restaurant business and things start getting really busy and you start getting like overloaded, like you get backed up and it's a domino effect that you're way behind and you're at a serious problem, and you come to this crossroads of like, it's getting worse, it's getting worse, it's getting worse. Now we're at the point where we're super backed up and this is a major problem, and now people are getting mad because this is taking too long, or something got messed up, the oven didn't work, or like there was a mistake somewhere, or things just got way too backed up and you're behind. You can react as in panic mode, and some, like these servers, they just go to the bathroom, start crying, or they just freak out about like we're cooked, versus calm down, be calm about it, and just let the people know, hey, yeah, we're super busy tonight, it's a little packed, but we're working on that, and things are going kind of like, sorry for the wait, inconvenience, but work on it, and it's a crazy night today. And they just kind of talk their way out of it. They're like, we're working on it, we'll fix it, and we're sorry about it. And usually people are very understanding about, versus someone that freaks out and says like, and they're like rushed and they're shoving it in their face. And the customers, or you can plug in whatever life situation you're in. It doesn't have to be restaurant, but if you go out in a nice, calm way, people are understanding, and it kind of reduces the problem. Versus when you go about the problem in a way that you got to rush and like go quicker because it's not going to work. Your time backed up, or something that's like a screw up, or you're behind. Then people actually get that energy of this person is like going so fast, and we've already waited an hour, and like it just makes them more mad because the way you're going about the problem. So that's why usually, this doesn't always work, but usually the managers come in to say, we're so sorry about that, and they try to like smooth things over, because the root of the problem was not that it was taking too long. Yeah, that's part of the problem, but the root was how you're going about it. And the manager tries to smooth things over, to say, they try to smooth out the relationship and how the person feels, and apologize and kind of mediate for what went wrong. But if the person would just go about it in a way that's calm, respectful, kind, and you're doing your best, then people have a different perspective on things. You can actually change people's different perspectives on the problem that you have. That's a problem for them, but you're saying in a way that we're going to figure it out together, So that's one thing, is how you go about the problem. In relationships, I wrote down family, friends, yourself, trust, and boundaries. So throughout your life, your family, your friends, strangers of every type, coworkers, whatever, you're going to have these relationship problems. And what's the best way to solve these relationship problems? Each situation is going to be a little bit different, but for the most part, if you want to maintain good relationships, you're going to have to learn to say sorry and learn to forgive others. And there's going to be screw ups in every single one of these parts of your life, and mistakes and problems. But if you go at things with a good attitude and you learn from them, then you'll just keep growing. And say, for example, you have these relationship problems. From what I found, the way to not solve a relationship problem, the only way for it to get worse, is for you to avoid. If you avoid and try to distance yourself from them, there's rare cases where you need to stay away from them because it only gets worse when you interact with them. But if this person is going to be a constant person in your life, coworker, family member, you're kind of stuck with them. Avoiding them just makes it worse. But you need to address the problem head on and immediately. The longer you let things go, the worse it gets, and it starts escalating into parts that it wasn't even the problem, but now it's become a new problem. If you can address the problem head on, you need to do it in person, not through text and call and email, and you have to do it in person. Maybe call if it's like that can help, but for the most part in person. And you need to talk with them too. They need to get their perspective out, you need to get your perspective out, and you need to reach an agreement. One, that there is a problem, find the problem. Then you need to both say your side of how we can fix the problem. The other problem is when they don't want to fix the problem and they just want to make it worse and they don't want to solve it, and you're the one trying to solve it. And those are tricky situations because there's an issue, but you can't solve it. So I think this goes back to the beginning of what I was saying about all these problems never going to stop coming. And maybe the message isn't how to solve your problem, because even if you do solve this one problem, there's going to be another one. It's how do you go about it when you're in it? And how do you balance, other than balancing your time, your priorities, all these things in your life that you have to balance, that's very difficult. How do you balance the priority of this problem? Are you making this problem the center point of your thoughts and your life and your energy, and everything is related to this problem? You shouldn't be doing that. And it's natural to do that because your mind focuses in on this issue that you want to get it solved. But the hard truth is that this issue that you can't solve actually shouldn't be your focus, because you focusing on this issue that you can't solve isn't going to solve it, and it's only going to drain you and bring you down and distract you from the important things in the present. You're missing the present because you're so focused on these problems. There's the whole past of your life, the whole future, and you're focusing your problems either in one direction of the past or the future, and you're not living in the present anymore. You're not even enjoying your life. And one day you're going to look back about all this time you wasted looking at these problems that were old, that they don't even exist now. I mean, imagine looking back on your life and those problems back, what you're looking on are just irrelevant to you now because you have different ones now. And you're like, I wish I wouldn't have wasted so much time focusing on those problems, because there was an answer to them. There was a solution. You move on, things happen, things change, and you focused all your time on those. Like, there's more to life. You have to enjoy life. I mean, when I thought about these 4 categories, balancing things, finding meaning and purpose, what you have and your resources and these relationships, there's kind of another thing, suffering, which it doesn't really have a solution. It only has a way to manage it and find peace in it. But there's sometimes not solutions to the things that cause suffering. I mean, when people grieve, it's not like there's some solution that like you won't grieve anymore. These processes that you have to go through. When someone goes through natural childbirth, there's not a solution to the pain. There's not a solution. They can give you epidural or whatever to reduce the pain, but there's no solution to the struggle you have to go through. That's just part of life. And I put that life is a series of choices, and there's all these choices you're gonna have to make, and you may either make a wise choice or a foolish choice. And I'm thinking about how you go through all these problems. These problems are constantly coming to you. There are these circumstances that they never stop coming. I mean, and the people that are constantly in worry, it's because they're focusing their mind on these problems. You need to not focus your mind on these problems. Ultimately you have to give it to a higher power about placing your burdens on a higher power than yourself, because you can't solve all these things, and there's constant uncertainty. There's nothing that's ever secure in this life. Your job, you think it's so stable and great. It is great for the next week, and then something happens and you're like, well, I guess this job's over, and I thought this was going to be like for the rest of my life or something. It's just not true. There's no job security. There's no security with relationships. There's no security with your health. There's just, insurance is a scam. I mean, it's smart to sometimes get insurance, but you can buy all the health insurance in the world, and then you find out you have, malignant cancer next week, and the surgery didn't work, and you're going through chemo, and you're going to die, and it's like, that was useless because it can't save you, because there's nothing secure in this world that you can hold on to. It's constantly changing and adapting, and you have to adapt to it. And throughout all the change, you need to, maintain a foundation, like a rock and an anchor, that when all this stuff happens, you'll keep the same level-headedness and go back to the source of, what your values are and what really matters in your life. Think about what really matters, that like, you have a week left to live. What are you going to spend your time on? What really matters? And I think it comes back to relationships. If you get the great job and all the money and you're by yourself, it's just depressing and not worth it. You want to spend it on other people, and the enjoyment is in the relationships. It all comes back to the relationships. Every good thing is a relation, and everything's related to one another, and true fulfillment is in the relationships. It's not in the things. It's not in the things you're chasing. I mean, it's in the people. You need to focus on what you're chasing, what your priorities are. Sometimes you just get the wrong priorities and everything gets out of balance. The priority is not money. The priority is not the career choice. The priority is not your identity and whatever certification, job, relationship, whatever. That's not the end goal. The end goal is to have good relationships, be a positive impact for others, and evoke the good out of others. And suffering is having what you don't want and wanting what you don't have. And you're gonna suffer in your life. It's just inevitable. But you have to not let things bring you down to places where you can't get out of. You have to remain level-headed and just go back to what really matters, like I was saying earlier about, say this problem that's distracting you. Say the problem is your health, and you're saying, what really matters, and you're like, my health. Well, yeah, but why does your health matter? Because of the relationships, and say you want to see your kids, family, spouse, whatever. There's a reason why you want to be healthy. One, you don't want to be in pain, you don't want to suffer. But two, you want to have a normal life, you want to have good relationships. It's detracting from, everything else in your life. If it's health, if it's your energy, if it's financial. If you use the word burden, you can put it in every single one of these categories, financial burden, health burden, burden of your time, burden of your relationships. Other thing about relationships is boundaries. And I think that's what causes a lot of hurt and pain and suffering, is when people cross these boundaries that are in place for a reason. For example, in your family or work, where there's a certain boundary, that there's a certain role that you're supposed to have, and someone crosses it, and they just cross the line, and they do something that's an injustice. It's an abuse, it's a exploitation, it's kind of an assault, or something that has been done to you that's an injustice. And those are really hard problems to solve, because sometimes there is no solving them. It's like, you look at the justice system, and it's sometimes like there's no human justice that we can do to even solve this problem. I mean, the injustice that's been done, we can try to give justice to it, but it will never be enough. I mean, those are the really hard, deep moral problems that this world has, about someone did something to someone, and their consequence, say it's the death penalty, would not even give justice or bring back what they lost or heal the wound that they, the further up you go in your life, the harder the problems get. But in the same way, they're always the same. I mean, there's harder problems, but they're all the same in a way. Like, it's almost like when someone breaks the law, there's different levels of crime. I mean, you start with stealing, something small versus, robbing a whole company in fraud versus, murder versus like all these different, you look at the law book and there's all these different levels where it kind of reaches this max level. Like you got the death penalty, you have multiple life sentences, we give you this much time, or, you get the torture, the electrocution chair that you need to be killed for this, or there's different levels of crime, but it's all crime and it's all breaking of the law. Same with problems. There's different levels of problems, but there are solutions to them. And finding the solutions is like the whole game of life. I mean, to find the solution to this problem. And that's kind of what humanity has done since the beginning, is trying to find solutions to human problems. And we never succeed. I mean, the things that have been engineered, and you think about like the vaccine that was created to solve this problem of disease, and it was so effective. It still is effective, but it didn't solve it. Or we make antibiotics, and then there's like this antimicrobial resistance where it's the actual bacteria is evolving to counteract our antibiotics, and it's a problem, and we never solved it, and we try to solve it. I mean, you go to the doctor when you're sick and they give you certain treatment, or then they fix the issue, but there's some issues that can't be fixed, and they're like, we did everything we can to help you, but you're gonna die. I mean, we can try to minimize the pain as much as we can, but that's the card you got dealt with that we don't have answers to. And there's multiple things in life like that where people don't have the answers to, and everyone is seeking all these answers. I mean, that's why there's the whole industry of therapists and psychology, psychiatry, counselors, marriage counselors. Everyone is going to these people with their problems thinking that, they have the answer because they went to school for it. And it's like, they really don't. I mean, so I guess my advice would be, when you're faced with a problem, which you will be, and you are, and they never end, which type of problem is it? And how can you go away about this problem that just know that time will solve it? And there's a little bit more to it than that. Not just waiting is going to solve it, but eventually over time this will get solved. There's some solution to it that maybe you don't see. And you're trying to find the answer, or maybe you don't have the answer at all. But there are solutions to these problems. And you need to make wise choices to lead you to these solutions. It doesn't mean you have all the answers. It just means that you go wisely about these issues. I mean, if you think of a king or a general, but think of a king, the president, and they're sitting at their desk or, wherever they're at, and they get brought to with this issue, this problem, and it's huge. It's, this country's going to attack, or this country's trying to, start war, or, all these people have been killed. What are you going to do about it? And you're faced with this problem. And just think of the weight of these problems that presidents and generals, and mainly the president because they're the commander-in-chief, and these people in authority positions where they're faced with these huge issues, problems. What does a good leader do? What does a good king do? One, he doesn't react foolishly, and he doesn't, react rashly. He thinks it out, and he's like, let me think about a way to go about this problem. Or think about a father where the kids, come up to him with this issue, he hit me, or, their kids, or this thing happened at school, or this kid did this to me, and they're faced with this issue, this problem. What is the wise father, king, general, president? How do they go about this? Well, they take time to process it, they hear other perspectives, and they do the decision that's going to best benefit this issue. Sometimes the answer is not as clean as you like, but it's an answer, and it may solve or address the problem, but there's so many points in your life where you don't like how that problem was addressed. I mean, if you think about an office or a workplace where the boss will address this problem, and you just feel like it's an injustice because they didn't address it the way you want it to be addressed, or they didn't even fix the problem. And you're like, why did I even bring it to them? Because they did nothing about this. Or maybe if you think about the founding fathers when they had this issue that the king was causing, and they go to the authority about it, and he didn't care about it. And they're like, the only answer is we have to leave. Sometimes that is the answer, is you have to leave that place because they're not interested in solving your problem. They don't care about the problem. And those are tricky situations when people don't care about the problem and they don't want to solve it. Very tricky situations. And you also have to be careful about not blaming others. When this problem comes on, when a heavy problem comes on, everyone wants to blame. Everyone wants to point the finger and say, it wasn't me, it was this person. And they will throw you under the bus, and they will just like snitch on you and rat you out and just immediately lose all loyalty because they have this fear that they're going to get in trouble. And that's the worst. When people don't stick to their character and they just throw everyone under the bus and they're trying to save themselves. It's like a defense mechanism of, it doesn't have to do with me, someone else did it. Everyone wants to play the blame game when mistakes happen, and they want to find a scapegoat to blame it on. And then there's people that you address them head on with this issue, and they just circle talk their way around this issue that they don't even take responsibility for what the issue is. I mean, say for example, this person that's dishonest or did an injustice, and I think about these court hearings where they put them on camera, and it's like they tell them about this direct issue, like, you stole this amount of money, why did you do that, millions of dollars, and they say like, Senator, I think I wish not to discuss, and they just like circle talk about what they just said, and then they'll get very direct and they'll be like, did you steal $5 million, yes or no, or like something like crazy black and white, yes or no, and they will not answer yes or no. They'll be like, Senator, I think that I've done the right, and then their answer is, I'm not going to answer, because they don't care, and they're directly lying to you head on. And these people, there is no reasoning with them. I mean, it goes both ways to maybe the person on trial or the person giving the defense, that these people that don't care are the ones you cannot reason with, you cannot fight with. And what's the worst is when they're in the authority position and you can't defend yourself, you can't accuse them because they're untouchable. It's just very difficult situations where a lot of unjust things happen, and you have to be very smart about how you go about it. And there's always this opposition to you to deal with. So relationships, I'd say, address head on. Try to get their perspective and try to take a new course of action. You're going to have to adapt to these problems. I mean, they're going to keep coming, but you have to kind of learn to go about them differently. And I guess a good way to solve problems is to go about them in different ways. You have to try new ways. You can't use the same way of going about the same problem, especially if it's not working. Think about a math problem when you're in school and you're learning this math problem, and you keep doing the same mistake, and you go to someone for help, and they're like, you don't do this part, and you learn that in your head that if I keep going about this the same way, I'm going to keep getting it wrong. I have to learn a different way to go about this. And then kind of like a light bulb goes off, you're like enlightened, or you see whatever, and oh, okay, this is how I go about this problem to get this answer. And then once you find the technique to go about the problem, you'll get the right answers. And you can do the same, different problems of that same type of problem, and you keep getting them every time because you found a way to go about the problem. But then you go to a different chapter in the math book or a different grade level, and it's a different type of math problem, calculus or something, and you get these wrong. And it's all about learning about how to go about them. I mean, think about every time there's a new class of calculus for a new set of students, and they all mess up and screw up, but the teacher keeps getting them right every time. And it's like, how can they all miss the way to get the problem right? But the teacher does it every time because he's seen this so many times that he knows about how to go about these problems. He knows the solutions to these, all the different solutions, even if they're given new types of problems, because he knows how to go about this specific type of problem. He's seen it so many different ways that he's like, this is just clockwork. And then sometimes, when you do good in a class, by the end of the semester, now you know how to go about it. And I remember when I was in like general chemistry 2, and I was at this study, table where people would come for their issues, and there's people from Gen Chem 1, and I saw exactly what they were struggling with that I used to be struggling with, and I'm like, this is easy to me now because I know how to go about this, and I actually help them, like, hey, you just do this. And then once they see it, they're like, oh yeah, that's easy. But it's only until someone tells you how to go about it. So in your life, when you're going about these problems, it's good to get other counsel on people that have been through it themselves. I mean, usually the older the wiser. It's not always true, but when they're older, they've seen so many different things that it's like, oh yeah, I can remember back to this day when this happened to me. And they just go back in time they have better answers to things. But sometimes younger generations can find new ways to solve problems that the older generations, like, they didn't do that in their day, but now you find a way, like, say it's with technology or something that's just like a new way of going about things that's actually a way to solve that problem that existed back in the past that they've been doing the same thing ever since and it's never worked. So both are useful, old and young. These people are like, oh, their generation, they get like talk bad about them. I mean, there's good and bad in every generation, and if they work together, you can actually learn things from the older ones and the younger ones, and there's like this symbiotic relationship between the old and the young that you can learn from the old and the old can learn from the young, and they can actually be functional together and benefit from each other. You can't be discouraged when these problems come. They are very discouraging naturally. But people, it's draining. It takes your energy to have these issues with these people. And you don't want to deal with them sometimes. It's like these problems, they get us so up in your face that's like, I just don't even want to deal with it. And you just want to leave and just be like, I'm done with this. Or say for just an example, when I was working in the restaurant business where it's like this issue comes up, this person got the wrong order, their steak wasn't cooked and whatever. They're like, I have this issue. And these managers would be like, I'm so sick of dealing with issues that I'm just done. And they go into their room and lock the door and be like, I'm done for the night. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's going to help solve this like angry person over here, but you still have to address the problems, but sometimes you do get sick of it, of just, I can't deal with this anymore, especially these people in authority roles where you're like dealing with these every day of your life, and you're like, I can't take any more problems. That's life. So you need to balance in your life some time when you can get away from the problems and just kind of have a vacation where you relax and get your mind off this issue, that it is an issue, but it will be solved. There are, answers to these issues. All of humanity, engineering, science, it's just trying to solve these issues, politics and economics, but you ever realize how there's no solution? I mean, they might enhance it for a certain amount of time, but it just goes back to the same issue. I mean, in every context you could think about. I mean, say it's like an issue of there's this island and we need to figure out from get to here so we can build a bridge. And it's like we engineered a solution to this problem. and they do all this, calculations to how to build it, and all these problems to solve the problem to build this bridge. And then a storm comes, or like this thing collapses and it breaks, and you're back to square one. Or all these other examples that are endless that you could think of, that they just never stop coming. Things are generated and then destroyed and built up and then deteriorated and decayed and generated and corrupted. It never ends. It's a cycle. It never ends. I was watching this movie, and there was a character in the movie that was just like stressed out about everything. Like everything was a problem. And it's kind of like it was a comedy, and it was just kind of a joke that like everything's a problem for this. But there's people that actually live their lives like that. Like everything is just anxiety and fear and panic, and they just take the uncertainty as, oh no, what's gonna happen next? And I'm like, that's no way to live your life. I mean, everyone is on almost an equal playing field. There's different people with different levels of problems, way worse problems, way less problems, but everyone's kind of on an equal playing field, that we all have issues and problems. And the people that are happy and at peace, you think they don't have problems? Of course they have problems. It appears that their life's so perfect, and because they're at peace and they're like happy, but they have deep issues. Everyone has issues. Everyone has problems, but they're going at their issues in a better way than some people are. And those people that go through deep issues in a good way, it's very encouraging, inspiring, and it brings other people up that are going through their issues. Say someone's going through something, and you're watching them go through it, but they're so positive, and like, it's almost like, wow, that they're very inspiring because what they're going through, and they're so positive about that. And then everyone relates it to themselves. Everything's about yourself all the time, and you're like, wow, my issue's not that bad, or that's really, I wish I could be like that with my issue. So be an encouragement to others that are going through things, because your little encouragement to someone else going through something, you don't know what people are going through. And if you're just a little bit encouraging to them, it could just completely like change their perspective, spirit, give them hope. It's like those little things can be really big to them. And then sometimes it can loop around and circle back on you, that good thing you did to them, that they're going to do for you, and then you just benefit each other. But those people that bring people down, they have problems in their life, and that's why they're bringing other people down. And these other people that they're bringing down is just bringing them down so much lower, because they're going through stuff too. And it's like they have no sympathy, no remorse. They just want to inflict on others. So problems are input output. Like a math equation, they always have a solution. Every problem does have a solution. The solution is the wisest solution. There's a wise answer to all these problems. There's the wisest answer, and everyone's trying to figure out those answers, and everyone seeks these counselors for these answers because they don't have the answer themselves. But you got to stay away from the fakes that act like they have the answers and they don't. You got to go to higher authorities. And when the answer is unclear, the solution's unclear, it can last a long time, years even, that you don't know the answer to this. But the day you get that answer is very fulfilling. And I think about, the classic story of these professors or just some genius or someone that's trying to find this really hard problem, like Newton or Leibniz or maybe Einstein, where they have this issue, this problem that's so big that they've been working on so long, years maybe, equations and theories, and they're trying to figure out this answer. When they get that answer, it's like victory. I mean, no one will understand except them how long they've been searching for this answer, and that they just got to, and it kind of changes everything. And people don't even understand the feeling or, the work that the true dedication of what this brought out of it, except for the person that has been seeking for this answer and they found it. And those are some really incredible stories about they're trying to find the answer to this thing and then it was found, and it's like, wow, that's an incredible story. And they make for good stories. When you have deep problems and you get an answer out of them, that's a testimony and a good story to tell that will actually bring fruit and inspire others, encourage others when you tell the story. Like, your issue will actually be someone's benefit. It's weird. It's like your suffering will actually be redeemed and pay off in someone else's future suffering that you went through, and you have the answer to their problem. Imagine you go through something yourself and you get out on the other side after a long time, and then you see someone going through what you went through, and you can be like, I know what it's like on the other side. I'm going to tell you my story. And those really hit deep, and they're great stories. And all of life is revolved around these stories, great stories, your story. Humans are just looking to the stories for the answers, and they do have the answers. The stories have the answers. These movies are just based on a story, these books, true or not true, all based on the truth to the story. Fiction or non-fiction, there are truths to the story. The lessons that are learned and wisdom in it. And I think that's pretty much all I got. Keep your priorities straight. Don't let the problems be distractions, because they're infinite problems, infinite distractions, and they're real. It's not that they're not real. It's just that they never stop coming. And treat your situation, your attitude, your mindset as if it's already solved. This problem, act like it's already been solved. How would you, feel, act like on the other side? Say your health issue's been solved. You feel great, but it's a lot, you can't really act and, like it's been solved when it's not been solved. But have the attitude that when it's been solved, the relief of there's an answer coming, it will come. This will be a storm that passes. You will have health again. You will have wealth again. You have energy again. You have a balance to your time again. You'll have direction and purpose and meaning and fulfillment. And your goal will be clearly, your path will be aligned, clear, and you'll come back to a redemption. This relationship can be restored. It can come back to a good spot. It can be redeemed. There can be a solution to this. A good solution. And maybe something greater on the other side. There is something greater on the other side. That's all I got.